It's game on. Joe Biden and Donald Trump have both locked down their party's nominations, setting America up for the first presidential rematch in nearly 70 years. But Joe Biden shouldn't expect smooth sailing to re-election. Uncommitted voters are still racking up double-digit support in several states. And old Yeller has still seen no State of the Union poll bump yet in his approval rating. Making matters worse for the president, Democrats are losing their longtime advantage with Black and Hispanic voters, with support shrinking to its lowest point in more than 60 years. So maybe that's why Joe Biden is leaning heavy on racial diversity in this new campaign video.
Are you ready to defend democracy? Are you ready to protect our freedoms? Are you ready to win this election?
And former President Trump is ready to rumble after locking up the nomination.
Hello, everyone. It's your favorite president speaking to you on a really great day of victory. We're a nation that is in serious decline. We've never had a situation like this where we're not respected, we're laughed at, we're considered almost a joke.
But let's sideline the rematch chatter for a moment. Are sports stars the future of presidential politics? RFK Jr. says he's considering Aaron Rodgers as his vice president. And the Jets quarterback has apparently welcomed the overture. RFK Jr. says that he will reveal his final choice in Oakland at the end of the month. Okay. Jesse, RFK says that he's going to announce his running mate, I think, on March 26th in Oakland, California. So I say to myself, why would he announce it in Oakland, California? And I say, could it be because Aaron Rodgers is from California and played college football in Oakland?
Well, the Jets might have a problem with Aaron Rodgers on the ticket. That might not be allowed in his contract. So I'm not sure it's Aaron Rodgers, although I'd like to see him on the ticket. Jesse the Body, I don't know about either. It's going to be someone flashy. The short list is a lot of sizzle, and he needs sizzle. I mean, he needs someone to kind of juice up the ticket and make it a celebrity-esque ticket. Someone outside the box, has an independent streak. What I'm concerned about is his ballot access, because if he's saying, and he's told me this, he's going to be on the ballot in every battleground state, he's not on all of them yet. And deadlines are coming up, so he needs to get ballot access, and he has to get his ticket organized. The fundamentals of the race are just terrible for Joe Biden. He's an old, unpopular guy. His coalition's falling apart, and he's got a third-party possible spoiler. And there's high prices, high crime, and he's overseeing an invasion. But then I worry, Janine, and I'm paid to worry, because the ground game on the Republican side is a concern. They didn't really have it together the last time, and we know how proficient the Democrats are when they have 6 weeks before an election to make sure all the ballots are collected and brought to the polling stations. And I also worry about these court cases. There's never been a situation where you could have a felony conviction in the lead up to an election. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. It could go either way. And then lastly, the agency and the Bureau have been interfering in all of our elections for the last 3 elections. And what have they got up their sleeve this time? I think the American people are pretty wise to it now, but you never know what's going to happen.
All right, Dana, Trump is edging out Biden in those swing states. And I think that according to Real Clear Politics, in the seven battleground states, 48% Trump, 43% Biden.
Well, first of all, I do want to say we love your pin.
Oh,
and it's a beautiful brooch, and
Thank
it's a
you.
great tribute to a wonderful woman,
It's
your
my
mom.
mom's.
So
Thank
that's
you.
great. So a couple of things. One of the things that's happening is that President Trump, in some quarters, is more popular now than he was when he was president. And I follow a Substack, which is a newsletter called The Liberal Patriot. And this is basically like, because he makes fun of me, but because it's basically like the truth tellers for Democrats, okay? And they wrote today, who is driving Trump's rising favorables? And it's really coming from Hispanics in a big way. And the Biden team is kind of at a loss to deal with it, and they are still trying to lock down their base on the left-wing side. Biden is going to Wisconsin. Senator Tammy Baldwin is up for re-election, and she has pulled a very challenging person for her opponent. So she's a Democrat. She's voted with Biden 95.5% of the time. But now she's trying to say I'm a very moderate person. I think that is a race to watch. And that, again, that's at those battleground states. Wisconsin is certainly one of them. Eric Hovde is the Republican who is coming after her hard and will probably turn that race into one to watch. And you'll see Bill Hemmer at the board spending a lot of time on that. Last thing from me is Nate Silver wrote today that the first post-State of the Union polls and the State of the Union overnight polls and the latest head-to-head polling versus Trump and Biden have not at all been very good for Biden. And so you look at the State of the Union speech a week ago tomorrow, and there were a lot of pundits, like some at another network, who were said, "Oh my gosh, that was a great speech. He was so good. He was so feisty. He was amazing, and he's so great. And like, let's just all hold hands and go forward." And the truth was, it was a badly delivered speech, and it was yelled at to the American people. It didn't go over well, and this is why they're having problems.
All right, Harold, you know, this we talked about in the beginning, that this is a rematch between two former presidents, one incumbent and a former. 70 years ago, the incumbent won. What happens this time?
I don't know. Good to be back around the table with everybody. I'd say a couple of things. Maybe Aaron Rodgers has a patriotism exception in his contract, because it's funny, he's not made any comments about whether he can or cannot. Nor have you seen, at least I have not seen anything from Woody Johnson or the ownership or even the coaching staff there at the Jets. To the substance, a lot of unpredictability in this race, and it's going to continue to be. When you have 2/3 of the country wishing this was not going to be a rematch, it shouldn't surprise anyone that the polling data, I think, is going to go back and forth. I don't think you'll see wild swings outside of the margin of error for either. But if you're a Democrat, you do have to be concerned, I think, as we sit here today in the very moment, that the bump was not, as Dana, I think, aptly mentioned and pointed to Nate's piece about how this is unusual for a president not to have gotten any bump. And Jane and I differ a little bit about the speech. I thought it was a decent speech, but clearly, you're right. The country didn't see it quite that way. Two, when you look at the Black and Hispanic voter issue here, we've talked about this on the show now for a little bit, and there's some polling data to support this. You have to speak more and more to people's aspirations and people's concerns. You can't use the same old tired kind of efforts and kind of predictable ways you go about trying to get out the vote. I heard the president the other day, he was somewhere, and he was already saying, get out to vote. We're 237 days or 220 days from maybe when early voting starts. You got to give people the beef, for lack of a better term. You've got to give people, and it can't just be, you can't frighten people to go vote. That can be a part of the mix, but you got to give people something to vote for. And I think African American and Hispanic voters would likely, and are likely probably going to come home, but there's no guarantee, and home being the Democratic Party in a presidential election, because that's where they normally go. That is not a guarantee at all here. I would urge the president, encourage the president to speak to schools, to speak to safety, to speak to security. The same things you speak to every other community, speak that way to African American and Hispanic voters. Don't tailor it in a way that looks out of place, looks unorthodox, and frankly doesn't look authentic. We care about the same things that every other voter cares about. We don't like high prices. We want our neighborhoods safe, and we want America safe. Talk about those things, and I think you'll get a fighting chance for those numbers to come back. But this is going to be a volatile race, and we might as well already all get accustomed to it and get ready for it.
Good recommendations. All right. Steph Curry, Greg, says that he is open to a career in politics after his season or after his contract's up. So we got Aaron Rodgers, Steph Curry. I mean, we could have the NFL and the NBA be our two branches of government almost.
You're asking me a question about Steph Curry?
Yeah.
I don't even know who that is.
He's a basketball player.
Well, thank you. Look, this is not a rematch. This is the second half of the Trump Bowl. And Biden was merely the worst halftime show in history, worse than Maroon 5 of 2019. And that is saying something. You know, we keep talking about the Black and Hispanic vote, but we're missing what it really is. The Dems aren't losing the Black and Hispanic vote. They're losing the Black and Hispanic men, right? Why don't they break that down, that men are fleeing the Democratic Party like it's a showing of Barbie? It's because it's terrifying to them that they're becoming the party of awfuls, right? Affluent, white, female liberals. The Democratic Party has become almost like a political version of the Bud Light commercial with Dylan Mulvaney. They've alienated men in order to please miserable activists. And men are like, hey, we know when we're not wanted. We'll see ourselves out. We know what a woman is, right? We know what's best for our kids. We know what it takes to protect our cities and our families. And we're tired of apologizing for laughing at funny jokes and at having natural testosterone, right? So they know that the Democratic Party has become a gender-specific party. And it is run by a specific type who deny biology, deny reality, deny common sense, and laws necessary for safety and security, because you know why? They're too mean. It's no different than a teacher's lounge at Smith College. They've alienated men in favor of tormented activists. And I would just like to know, what has Joe Biden, what has the Democratic Party ever said about men? Anything? It's about women, it's about gender, it's about trans, and it's about race, right? And they got so obsessed with race, they forgot about the sexes. Especially one half of the sexes. It's the party that's inhospitable to the Y chromosome. If you're a man, why stick around?
Why?
Why?
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.